I'm told that I still have an excuse for the story that I'm going to tell you, the episode that I share, because I have a 3-month-old little baby and a 4-year-old running around. But it was the other day, and I think you may have had some similar experiences in your life, where you go to a room. In fact, I was going down to the basement. I walked all the down the stairs, carrying several things, got down there, and I totally forgot why I was in the basement. I stood there in the middle of the basement and said, I totally forgot why I'm here. I totally forgot what I was looking for in the basement. I knew I was going down there for some reason to get something, to look for something, and I could not remember what it was. Raise your hand if you've ever had an experience like that. Just go ahead and raise your hand. You couldn't remember. Now, I may have one excuse. We may each have our own excuses for why we have that. We're on, some kind of antibiotics, or we're aging, or something. We have excuses. Or sometimes we just don't remember. So I went back upstairs, said to my husband, I totally forgot why I went to the basement, stood where I had last remembered what it was I was going to do, the last place you had the thought of what it is you were going for. And then I did remember, and I figured that out. Because memory, I think, is a powerful thing. Our memory, though it can fail us at times, resides deep within us. And it takes cues. Sometimes we have to wake it back up, because it takes cues and it is tied to surroundings, situations, emotions, smells, tastes, sensations. It seems that the women who had these spices, as soon as after the story of the crucifixion, Luke tells us that these women were going on a chore, on a task, to remember Jesus. After the death of someone that they loved, after the death of someone that we love, we take pains to remember. We don't want to forget. They go then to the last place they saw him, the last place that they knew and could experience Jesus, where they saw his body had been taken away. They went to go to offer their love, to remember together, to prepare his body to, after the fact, to anoint. It makes sense we do this. We leave flowers at graves. We want to remember in some of those ways. But they didn't really have that chance, because the astonishing news, something that the clue, Luke says, that something was different, comes right away when it says the stone was rolled away. They didn't particularly have a plan how they were going to do that, I suppose. But the stone was rolled away, and instead of the body, they found these 2 men in dazzling clothes. This is a clue that Luke gives us earlier in the gospel, and that Luke will tell us later in the book of Acts, that something godlike is going on. When men in dazzling clothes show up at the Transfiguration, later at the Ascension, as it did in the Old Testament, these were clues that God was bringing a message. In fact, that's what angel means. These were messengers. They had a word for them. And the message, first of all, isn't, as in some of the other gospels, here's the deal. The angels ask them a question. Why do you look for the living among the dead? He is not here. He has risen. And then they say, remember? Remember what he said? The women go to look for Jesus, but apparently they're looking in the wrong place. If they're going to remember Jesus, they've gone to the wrong place to figure out what it is. If they're looking to find Jesus, he's not there. And I'm going to pause here for a moment because I think in this proclamation that these men, these messengers, these angels perhaps, there's a couple key issues for Luke. Luke is the only one who tells the story this way. That first of all, what you're looking for is important to Luke. And then also that this idea of remembering is important to Luke. First, what we're looking for. Over the past few weeks, we have even talked about this as we read Luke's account of Jesus' journey into Jerusalem. Just a couple weeks ago, we read of the story of how Jesus again foretold his death, told his disciples his clear direction on how he was going into Jerusalem to be handed over, to be crucified, to suffer, which his disciples, Luke says, had no idea what he was talking about. Immediately followed by a scene in which he encounters a blind man whom Jesus heals and who gets it. The blind man, ironically, as Luke gives it to us, sees what Jesus is about. He's able to look for the right thing, even when the disciples aren't even getting it. In fact, this root, this seeking idea, comes in throughout the Gospel of Luke. It's the same word that Luke uses when his parents, when Mary and Joseph lose him in his childhood, when they're all on the road back after going, and oh, where's Jesus? Where is this? Then they find this boy Jesus in the temple, and they said, Jesus, we were looking everywhere for you. And Jesus says, well, why didn't you look in my Father's house? Where are you looking? It's the same thing when Luke tells us, ask and it will be given to you. Search, seek, you will find. Luke tells a whole cycle of parables about the losing and the seeking and the finding. The lost sheep, the woman and the lost coin, who seeks, who looks for it until she finds it. The lesson, I think, even being in the 17th chapter, after he tells these parables, he says, those who try, those who seek to make their life secure will lose it, but those who lose their life will keep it. This is what Jesus and Luke were talking about when we were looking in the right place. Now, not are we always looking in the right place, as it seems to be the women and then Peter do, because Luke employs this same verb in a negative way of the chief priests and the scribes, for they were looking for a way to put Jesus to death. Judas was looking for an opportunity to betray him. It matters where we're going to look and what we find when we get there. The seeking idea made me think of one of my older daughter's favorite games. We play it at home a lot. It's hide and seek. Except Gwendolyn plays it really in an awesome way. It's really exciting because this is how we play. We get together and we're like, Mommy, we want to play hide and seek. So we play hide and seek around the house. And she'll be like, okay, your turn. You go count. I count. She hides. And I go find her. And they said, okay, Mommy, your turn. You go hide. I'll count. And so I come up with some really cool place to hide. Some place she wouldn't have thought of that's really awesome. And she finds me. And she's like, okay. My turn to go hide. You go in there. My turn to go hide. And she chooses the same spot that I just hid in because she thought it was such a good spot. And I knew she was going to do that because she wanted me to go away from the spot that I was standing in into the hallway because she needed me not to watch her while she hid in the spot I had just chosen. Wouldn't finding someone be a whole lot easier if we knew exactly where to look in hide and seek? Wouldn't it be great if others behaved exactly like us and chose all of our favorite hiding spots so that we knew exactly where to look for them? But the startling good news of Easter is that Jesus was not where they went to go look for him. Why do you look for, why do you seek the living among the dead? He is not here. He is risen. Remember. So if you're looking in the wrong place, I think they're saying, they're challenging the women to think about this, questioning them, prompting them, remember. What are we supposed to remember? It says here that the men say, remember how he told you while he was still in Galilee that the Son of Man must be handed over to sinners, crucified, and the third day rise again. This central piece was so important to Luke that Jesus, during his lifetime, repeated it in the kind of what we call the foretelling 3 times. The last time, right before he healed the blind man, and none of the times did anyone particularly get it. They weren't listening so that later they could remember. And Luke's gospel is the only gospel to tell the story in this way at the resurrection. In Matthew and in Mark, well, Mark doesn't do a whole much of anything. The women just kind of run away scared. It's kind of this, whoa. And then Matthew kind of extends the narrative, and the angels give kind of a, remember, the angels just say, he's gone on, go join him, he's in Galilee ahead of you, that's what he said, that's where he said you'd be. But Luke challenges them not to just go on to Galilee to find him, as Matthew does, but says, first, remember, because there's something really crucial in remembering, because memory is a powerful thing. It takes cues from surroundings, situations, emotions, smells. Our memory is something that can be an aid to us, but also a barrier, however. Because I think for the Gospel of Luke doesn't tell them to remember as something that is simply past-oriented. Luke doesn't have these angels say, remember all the stuff that I just wrote about in those previous 23 chapters. There's something that you need to do if you remember. It's not a past-oriented thing. It's a present and future thing. This is the contrast that's being drawn between the living and the dead. We don't just remember to keep our minds in the past into the ways of death. That's what the women had apparently done. They had gone to the place of death to look for Jesus. But Jesus was not there because we don't look for Jesus in the places of death. Instead, remembering is about the present and the future. It has to, for us, I think, reorient our sense of what is the past. It would be mistaken for us to think that the past is solely something that has already taken place, that it is dead and gone, and that it does not somehow affect us now. In fact, I think that the past, in some sense, is within the present.